Maybe the reverse side of that coin is this. When you get involved in a task, especially a talented group like you are, there's a tendency to trust in your own strength. I know that's true for me. That's what you call cistern digging. Cistern digging says I'm going to go out into life and I'm going to find the life I need, the energy I need, the desire I need, the courage I need, whatever it is I need, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to find it in my talents. I'm going to find it in my hard work. I'm going to find it in my success or even in my friends. And God says, idols and cisterns fail. Always. And if I trust my own strength, I will never be living water to anybody else. But this, the spring of living water, never fails. Imagine this spring was running here like this, maybe looked a little different, but running here like this 3,000 years ago when David came here. This doesn't fail. It's always there. It seems to me the source of our strength is the water of life. And we come here, and we're filled, and now we have something for others, and we come back again, and we're filled again, and we go back again, and we become effective. And we don't dig cisterns. Anyone have a comment?
Ray, I think what makes this water so special here, other than its just raw beauty, is the fact that it's contrasted with the desert. When you're out in the desert, you have to come back to a place like this and get refreshed. And I love your analogy of this being fed by God. Don't you think sometimes when people become critical of worship and communion with other believers, it's because they haven't been out in the desert enough to get thirsty? And I'm always struck by the more obedient to God and doing God's work, the more beautiful it is to come away and spend time with God and spend time with God's people. And when you're not doing the work that God called, or to use your word, not being out in the desert, sometimes you just take for granted and it's not so special to be together and come to a beautiful place like this.
I think sometimes culture can be so attractive and so pleasant and so pleasurable that we fail to realize that even things that are comfortable and enjoyable can be like a desert if you leave God out. Because if God is like water, then what makes something desert is that there is no water. So you can even take the most wonderful thing our culture has to offer, wealth and power and luxury and leisure and vacation and all those good kind of things, and you leave God out, you've got a desert. And I wonder sometimes whether we really realize how incredibly dry and barren our culture is. And so I can come here to the spring and I can drink and I can have whole buckets full of water, but unless I realize that out there are people dying of thirst because God is not a part of their life and God is not a part of their existence and God is not a part of their everyday experience, I'll have no reason to bring the water of life to anybody else. And that's also true for me. I need to realize that often I feel very much out of touch with God, and I need to realize how dry and barren that is. It's almost like a person is so thirsty that they're almost delirious and don't even realize that they're thirsty. And I think we need to look at our culture, we need to look at ourselves and students in our schools and even our own children as being thirsty. And here's the answer.
For me, my family can be an oasis or an En-Gedi, and my wife for me is an oasis that God puts in my life, and I need to be that for my kids and for my wife, and it seems like that's one oasis that God uses for all of us.
I think that's a good barometer of whether we're drinking enough from the living water is what we're putting into the relationships that we have with other people. And are we being the stress and being the heat and being the dryness in those relationships, or are we being the oasis for the other people?
Ray, I think the one other image of Israel is just out of this valley, we have the Dead Sea. It's easy for us to compare the desert to the living water, but a couple of us were out floating in the Dead Sea last night. From a distance, that looks like it's living water. It looks like it's something that would be refreshing. You get down into it, and it's awful. And I think the idea of this looking good and being good, and that looking good from a distance, and as you get close to it, it's very, very bad. And again, for us as Christians to be able to relate to what is the living water and not just what looks like it from a distance, and be able to tell the difference.
Amen. I'd be tempted to stay here. I'd want to stay right. I don't want to go back to the Negev. I don't want to go back and hike in the Jericho Road. I want to stay right here with an easy chair. But I think there's also the idea that when you taste the water, now you can go on and face the world that so desperately needs the water we have to offer. Anyone else with a comment?
A lot of teens today are in the desert and they're looking for the living water, but they can't find it. So they turn to the Dead Sea, which to them is like drugs and beer, alcohol, and like abortion. And I think we really have to be and show them the living water of God to help them get out of the desert.
Amen. Amen.
Life is not so easy as a Christian standing stone. It's a barren wilderness. We can't make it on our own. But the waters of En-Gedi are fresh and flow with life. So find the Lord in prayer, quench your thirst and end your strife. Oh, En-Gedi, taking refuge in the Lord. En-Gedi, let the peace of God reward. Drinking living water and resting in the shade, finding all the comfort to never be afraid. Oh, En-Gedi, in a quiet peace with God.